Hey guys, it's David out at Reptile Gardens. I run the plant and landscape department, and today we are going to be talking about orchid care. One of the biggest questions and most often questions I get are how to take care of orchids. What do we do to take care of our orchids? I know a lot of people have these in their house and they want to know the best ways to get them to bloom and to live a long, happy life. So, to start off, I'm going to use two really common orchids. A lot of people have these in their house. These are called Phalaenopsis orchids, and they're some of the easiest to take care of. This one, as you can see, is in full bloom here. This one, as you can see, is done blooming. So the first thing I like to tell people is you can cut these off. Once they're done blooming and the stem dies back, just go ahead and cut it off right at the base of the plant. And that will put all the energy back into the roots and back into the heart of the plant. A lot of people do like to leave those stems on because they can rebloom, but my personal choice is to let all that energy and health go back into the roots of the plant. So, orchids generally come in two different types of substrates or soils. One, we have bark, which is my favorite, or they come in what is a sphagnum moss mix. I like the bark a little bit better because orchids are epiphytes, meaning they do not need soil. They get their moisture from the air. So I will show you my methods. I've heard a lot of different methods and a lot of different ways, but this is the way that I've always done it, and it proves to be really good. So with a pot like this, there are no drainage holes in this pot whatsoever. You can buy pots that do have holes in the side and the bottom for orchids, and they can be watered in the exact same way. So what I like to do, about every 2 weeks or so, I set my orchid in the sink, kitchen sink at home, and I rinse off the leaves, starting off. Give it a good rinse, and then I literally just fill the pot with water all the way up. This allows the bark to absorb the moisture and the roots as well. And I fill it up right about to the top just so that all the bark is submerged. And these roots right here, these are their aerial roots. And they absorb moisture right away. You can even see once they're wet, they just start, once they get in contact with water, they just start soaking it up instantly. So what I'll do is I'll just set this orchid aside. I'll let the bark absorb all that moisture. And with this one here, these ones I do a little different. Now this one has the moss in it. So what I like to do is I will fill my sink up about halfway with water, and I will set the plant in there. And then I'll make sure that the water gets all the way up to the top there. And I'll let that soak. I do this when they have the moss, they tend to stay wetter a lot longer. So I'll just set this in the sink, and I'll wait for all the air bubbles to finish rising. And once that happens, I'll take it out and I'll really let it drain really good. I'll even dump out excess water. Now, if your orchid pot does have this moss in it, I would say doing this once a month would be more than enough. So I'll leave that in the sink until it finishes draining. And then with this one over here, obviously I don't want it to sit in the water. So to drain it out, I just dump all the excess water out of it. And then once there's no more water coming out, it should be good. Now with both of these orchids, these do really good in anybody's home. They do not like to be in direct sunlight. So if you have a west-facing window where it gets the bright sunlight in the morning, but it's shaded throughout the heat of the day, it should do just fine. This orchid I've had at my house now for about 15 years. It blooms once every year for about 4 or 5 months. I lucked out with that one. But if you follow some of these basic steps with orchid care, you can have beautiful orchids growing in your home too.